I plan for order in the home, for the housework, for the laundry, and for the upkeep of our clothing so that life is calmer. But I plan surprises too so that life at home is fun. And that's by Elizabeth George. I chose that quote because today we're going to be talking about different ways that we can bring joy into the home. And I'm looking forward to this episode. I think it'll be delightful. I'm with Carla Moore in Texas, and I'm in Bowling Green. I'm Kathy Pollard. This is our podcast, Looking Up. It's for Christian women, and we just get together and have a conversation about whatever's on our hearts, basically. And hopefully, everybody who listens in feels like they're just joining us at a kitchen table over a favorite drink, and we're spending time together, encouraging each other to keep looking up and know that no matter what's going on, God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. Colossians 3:1 and 2. So, Carla, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm thinking those little surprises, those are the fun parts.
The
They bring
surprises.
the surprises. Yeah, you planned things, but then surprises can happen and then things change. But yeah, that
Well,
sounds
it's
like
so
fun.
easy to get into a rut. You don't
Hmm.
realize you are. It's just, here's our daily schedule. Here's what we always do. This is how we always eat. And whenever there is a little surprise like that, it just shakes things up and makes you go, what?
Yeah, hopefully it's a happy surprise,
Hopefully it's
like
a happy
cereal for
surprise.
dinner or
Exactly.
something like that.
Right. Yes, exactly. So
Well,
that's
I'm looking
that's what we're
forward.
gonna talk about today.
Yeah.
But what's new with you?
Not a whole lot's new. We did keep Livy and Sophie a few days ago, and Livy is almost 3 and she's sweet as can be, and Sophie is too, but she is pretty much exclusively nursed and I had to give her a bottle. And so
Mm.
that was challenging. She did not want anything to do with it. So I'm texting Courtney, Sophie does not want this bottle. She would like stick it out with her tongue and cry. And anyway, finally Courtney said, well, just maybe try and distract her and wait till she's calm. And that was the key. When she was calm, then I warmed it up a little bit more. I think it was a little too cold the first time when I warmed it up a little bit more, and then I just kind of let her play with it. And then all of a sudden she realized, hey, that's something I might like. And she chugged it down after that. But that was interesting. That was interesting.
Well, not to compare my baby calf to your baby granddaughter. However,
Your baby calf is a bit bigger.
she is recently done with being bottle fed, but she acts like she still wants it. And
Mhm.
one of the early times when we first brought her home, we were out in the barn with her, and she started gnawing on the bottom of my jeans, like sucking on them, like grabbing it in her mouth and sucking on it. And then she took her head and kind of bumped me like this,
He
like
likes, yeah.
calves do with their mama when they're
Uh-huh.
nursing. They'll bump
Uh-huh.
the udder like that. And I was like, sorry,
Yeah, nothing there.
nothing here for you. Yeah, but she's grain fed and hay fed, but still acts like, hey, where's my bottle of milk?
So she was born in December, right? So she's 3 months old, almost
Yeah,
4.
she was born mid-December. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
You need to
But
share some pictures.
I took some. I will share them. Yeah, for sure. I thought we would bring up the fact that Equipped is coming up
Hmm.
shortly, and we're at the end of March now. So, in a few weeks, the dates are April 24th through 27th. And this is a workshop that our congregation is hosting, Cumberland Trace Church of Christ. And this is our third year. But of course, I want to share it here on Looking Up because you and I are going to be speaking again and recording an episode of the Looking Up podcast there at the Equipped workshop. So we want to invite any ladies that can come join us. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to hug your neck. I think it'll be a lot of fun. The theme for Equipped this year is studies in Isaiah. It's going to be a great, great study. Lots of really good topics lined up and speakers lined up. And there's going to be a bookstore, there's going to be food trucks, displays, singing, all kinds of wonderful things. So I'm
Do you
looking
know
forward
what
to
food
that.
trucks?
And well, I know Jeremy's will be one of them.
Barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
The best barbecue, I might
Hmm.
add, but
Hmm.
I'm not sure what the other ones are yet. I'll let you know as soon as I find out.
Is Brittany doing coffee?
She is.
Okay.
Bluegrass Beans is going to make a return appearance.
All
Yes.
right.
So,
Well, I was just looking through real quick, trying to find the lady speakers because there's some really good ones. Janaya Ote.
mhm.
Um, let's see. Who, of course, there's you and me with
I think
our
Whitney Watson is coming this year.
Cherie Vestal.
Hmm.
Who else? I'm Lacey Kroll, Renita
Hmm.
Archie. Yeah, you said Whitney Watson. So it's
Yes.
gonna be good.
Mhm. It
It
is.
always is anyway, but I'm really excited about it and looking forward to it. Just to get to see you. It's been a while.
That's how I feel. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Now, I know you're going to be exhausted by the time you show up because you have a lot of other things leading right up to that event, but
It's a
I'm
busy week.
grateful that you guys are coming anyway, and we
Oh, we're
appreciate
excited.
that. We're
We're
looking
excited.
forward to it.
Yeah.
So, the other personal thing I thought I would share before we get started is I've talked to you about this and a handful of other people, but not many people at all. But Neil said, I asked his permission, can I share this with people? He said, go for it. But we are in the process of trying to build more of a family stead, like homestead, except with more of our family on our land. We don't have a lot of land at all. To us, it's a big deal.
Mhm.
When we were in Colorado, we had 1/5 of an acre. So,
Mhm.
so to us, it's a big deal. We have 6.6 right now, but um, it's big enough, but it's a little bit too big for just the two of us, and we want to make more of the land than we are and make the most of it. And so we had a family meeting with all the kids with PowerPoint and everything about this idea of inviting them to come on this land with us to help
Mhm.
us with whatever we want to grow or the animals or the farm stand, or because we've already started Life in Favor, which is a family business, and they all help with that. um, and so I wasn't sure how that would go over. We want to respect their independence and their own
Mhm.
families and their own lives and everything. But it went over really well. And so we already have Gary and Chelsea here because our basement is a full walkout basement and it has everything, a kitchen, bath, full bath, bedrooms, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good sized basement. So they're already here, and we're in the process of getting ready to start a small build to bring Dale and Janelle here and their
Mhm.
son Jude. Um, and so we're finally taking first steps in making this happen. And we're having somebody come out and I didn't know you even had to do this, but you have to do whole HOLE tests for where the
Mhm.
septic's going to go. So we have
Right.
somebody coming out that is going to be digging like 40 holes
Yeah. Don't
to
they call them
find out.
proofs or something like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
To find out where we can put a septic, so we'll know where to build. And so, it's, I know it's not, really exciting news for everybody else. We just haven't really shared it with all that many people. And part of that is I told you I don't want people to think that I'm weirder than they already think that I am, but I'm excited about it. And I love the
Mhm.
idea. And I love the idea of all of us working together and doing life together and helping each other out. And so,
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
that's the
we
big.
live on land that was Grady and Janice's.
Mhm.
And my mom and dad lived right here, and John's sister lived right here, and his aunt lived right here. So
Mhm.
it has been nothing but good for us. So I
I'm
pray that
happy
it
to
will be
hear
great for
that.
them.
Thank you. We've
And
never had
again,
that.
again, like you were talking about peach or not peaches, but apricot and just your switcheroo. And it really doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. This is going to be good for your family. And y'all have made that, that's a personal and private thing. It's not really something for other people to necessarily need to have an opinion about.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the people that we have told have been sweet about it, of
mhm,
course, but we're just thinking more and more about like legacy and what we can leave behind and what we can leave our family and what we want to build and what's important to us. And you've mentioned that you've had your family's land. We've never had anything like that. We've never lived close to family.
mhm,
We've always been way spread out from the parents, the grandparents, the
right.
sisters, and it's been a huge blessing that since we've been here, more and more family members have moved into the area. And
Mhm.
so anyway, I just thought I would share that.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So, like, where on your property are you thinking that you're going to build something for Dale and Janelle?
Well, that I one thing I have learned already, in case I didn't know this ahead of time, is I know nothing. And I kind of have
You
this
need a reminder.
idealistic picture of, oh, we can just do this and we'll place like a cabin right there and it'll be so perfect. And in my mind, we've got a little fruit orchard on the back of the property. And in my mind, we would have a couple of cabins on the other side of the orchard, kind of
Mhm.
facing the house so that their backyards would have pretty part of the property to, if we want to put it like a porch or
Yeah.
something on the back. So that in my mind, that's where they would go.
Mhm.
But apparently, even though we live out in the country and even though this is our land, apparently people get to tell us what to do with it. And
Yes.
so Neil's met with a couple people who know the legal ins and outs of what we can do. And you can't just build willy-nilly
Right.
wherever you want to on your land. So
Mhm.
the part of the property that's on the other side of our driveway, we bought separately after we moved here. And so that's a separate section and it's already zoned for residential building. So that's where we're going to have to put it, which in my
Mhm.
mind would have probably been the last place I would have wanted to build it.
Hmm.
But probably that's where it's going to end up. And then, of course, depending on where we land, the septic will determine where
Right.
the house will actually be built
Yeah.
on that section of land. So,
Yeah. Well, it's going to be good. I mean, our kids grew up having both sets of grandparents nearby, and
mhm.
they grew up learning how to drive on the property when they were 12 years old, and just
Mhm.
there's things about being close. And you could see my mom and dad's house, but we couldn't see Grady and Janice's. So we had enough, separation, and we had privacy and all, but it's never been anything but a blessing to have been this close to family. So I'm happy for y'all.
Thanks. We
Have
actually
you?
got the idea from last summer. We go to this Homestead Festival
Mhm.
in Columbia, Tennessee, and last summer we heard a talk about somebody. The talk wasn't actually about that. It's just that people that were presenting the talk, that's what they do.
Mhm.
And we sort of kind of joked about it and tossed the idea around. And then the more we thought about it, me, couldn't really let it go. And I just kept thinking how beautiful it would be to be able to raise our grandchildren around a dairy cow and, chores on the farm and a
Mhm.
family business, and so we just thought, let's just pitch it and see what happens. And we told all the
Mhm.
kids ahead of time, it totally will not hurt our feelings if you're not on board with this,
Yeah.
So anyway, what?
Have you watched? There is a show on Angel Studios, which is where The Chosen started out. I don't think they still air on that, but it's called Homestead, and it's an actual homestead. And
Hmm.
I've only watched the first part of the first episode, but it looked like something that you would enjoy. Just
Hmm.
homesteading stuff.
Okay, I have
It's
not
like a
watched it.
reality show with a homestead.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, that would not be my full-fledged recommendation because I haven't watched it. But when I saw it, I
What?
thought, oh, Kathy would like this.
You
So,
haven't watched it? Why
mm-mm,
not?
just haven't had time yet.
Yeah.
I haven't even
Mm,
watched all of the episodes that are available of the Roundtable.
I
I'm
haven't either.
actually, I've watched two, and I need to catch up on there's at least two, maybe when this podcast comes out, the fourth or fifth episode will come out. So
Mhm.
it just takes time to sit down and watch TV.
Yeah, well, and normally I'd be content to listen, but hello, I'm on it. So I want to see.
I want to see the weird expressions I make and go, what in the world
Exactly.
was
It's
I
like,
thinking?
why wasn't that part cut out? No,
Yeah.
they really did a good job with
Hmm.
it. It looks very professional, and I have only watched part of the first one.
Hmm.
I'm behinder than you are, but
Yeah.
they did
So
a good job.
Garrett, if you happen to be listening, sorry, we will catch up today.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
I mean, we know what's in it because we were there, but I
Mhm.
do still want to watch it because
I do too.
I want to relive that and remember because a lot of times I was thinking what needs to be said next and didn't really get to focus in as much as I wanted to. So it's been really good what I've watched. Not not because of me at all, because of y'all. That sounded a little bit
Oh, we so
La-di-da.
good. We so smart.
You say so. If you say so.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we
Nope.
jump in? Okay, good.
Let's jump in.
Because normally I don't write like a full-fledged outline or anything. I just kind of jot down a few things when we know what we're going to talk about that I don't want to forget to say. And I got so into this topic, bringing joy into the home. I ended up printing off like 4 pages of notes, which is not a good idea for a podcast in more ways than one.
We're going to be here for a while, huh?
Exactly. And we don't want to do that. We need to keep this, decent.
Yeah.
Decent in time.
Not assume that everyone has an hour and a half to spend with us.
But I do love this topic so much. And I've been listening to these amazing podcasts recently that I truly wish young me would have had access to them. Young wife me, young mom me, some of the things that are said are just so good and so practical. And I can't figure out a way to send them to my daughters-in-law without them thinking I'm telling them something, because I'm not. I just think these are so good. You have to hear them. But I'm afraid they'll be like, wow, she thinks we stink at this. Don't want to. And I don't feel that way. I definitely don't want to give them that impression. I also don't want to be that kind of mother-in-law, listen to this.
You need this.
Here's another one. Listen to this also.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
All right. But having said that, I think I mentioned in a recent episode that I ran across a podcast by Lisa Bass, who was interviewing Sally Clarkson, two of my favorites. And they were I don't even know what they were supposed to be talking about, or what they titled that one, but a lot of it had to do with how Sally Clarkson raised her family and the kind of home life that she curated for her family. So really, I pulled a lot of her thoughts for this particular episode on bringing joy in the home. And a couple of the things that she just said in the episode is anger tires you out. Forgive people when they make mistakes. Make your home a home of grace, and put your anger, fear, and worries in the file drawer of heaven. And so she talked about those things that we as women and as humans have a tendency to hang on to, things like anger, fear, worry, those kinds of things. But she was like, put them in the file drawer of heaven, which I loved the way she phrased that. And make your home a home of grace. And so some of these statements I'm going to share were just from the introductory remarks. She was talking about, especially this for young moms with small children. Your house is a wreck and you clean it up only to have it wrecked again day after day. And how sometimes that can get to a young mom's mindset, and it's dreary and wearisome. And she said, but when you're happy, everything goes better. When you're not happy, you feel guilty. So chill, mom, and just enjoy life. And so those are some of the statements that you have to kind of go back and listen to it in its whole context. But the idea is how easy it is for us to get caught up in the negative emotions that can come along with the discipline, the effort, the mistakes that we make in the home, the sins that we commit against each other in the home. All of these things can, if we let it, bring out the worst in us. And it affects the home. It affects everybody else that God has put into our homes. And so what are some ways that we can replace that and bring joy into the home instead? And it reminded me of a quote that I share periodically that says, your kids don't need a perfect mom, they need a happy one. So that's what we're going to talk about, is just a few ways that we can bring joy into the home. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. Do you have a list of things, or how did you do it?
I just have some ideas, but I'm much more interested in hearing what you have.
Okay, I didn't know. We never really talk about this ahead of time. So I didn't know if we wanted to kind of go back and forth with tips, or if you even had a list or anything like that.
Why don't you tell me what you've got, and then because mine may intersect with yours, and if so, then I'll just add on to what you say.
Sounds good. All right. So my first one, Sally Clarkson said this: make delight a part of your life. Make delight a part of your life. So she was saying, and when she said this, it resonated so strongly with me because I've been very guilty. She said, don't wait for things to be just right.
Mm.
Enjoy every day as it is now because that's what your life is mostly made of. The everyday normal days where not everything is just right.
Mhm.
And I resonate with that so strongly because I think about, maybe when your kids are little, you're like, well, I'll need to wait until they're a little bit older, or I'll need to wait for this, or I'll need to wait until I can start this or not be doing this. Or if I'm, in a fight with my husband, the whole world's messed up and I don't want to do anything, so everything just seems like whenever things get all straightened out and I've got it all organized and all my problems are solved, then I can be a delightful person.
Mm.
And, what part of any phase of life is ever going to be perfectly smooth and problem free? So that's the problem with that kind of approach to life. So um, we might find ourselves saying things like, if only, I would be more of a joyful person if only, fill in the
Mhm.
blank, or whenever we do this or that, or, but the weather is gloomy. You and I both are affected by
Mhm.
gloomy weather, cold weather, gray weather. My husband and I are clacking, all of those types of things. So here are some of the things that she gave as tips for just making the most of the everyday. It's not a special occasion, it's an ordinary day. Maybe things aren't perfect, but you can still make it delightful. And here are some of the things that she said: make time every day for pleasure. And she wasn't talking about, we're not talking about like self care, like I'm going to go soak in the tub, I'm going to go have some me time. She means
Ice
something,
cream.
definitely ice cream, definitely.
Sorry.
But she means something for everybody in your home to enjoy
Hmm.
every day. And she gave the example that at 3:30 or 4 o'clock every day, they have tea time. Now they're a very international family, but she said it could be whatever: hot chocolate, coffee, lemonade, water, tea, whatever. They have tea time and a talk and a little treat every single day, no matter what's going on. And that's
Mm.
just their time. They all look forward to it. They enjoy it. They touch base with each other. Um, she said that make and delight a part of your life is something that you determine to do. You have to cultivate it. It's not going to happen by accident. And you then pass it on to other people. So you can name 5 fun things that you like to do as a family based on your family's personality. So your family might enjoy, and your family does enjoy, outdoorsy things like hiking. Your guys enjoy fishing, things like that. Not every family might be outdoorsy types. So think of your family's personality and types of things that you enjoy. Come up with 5 fun things that you can do as a family and start incorporating them on a regular basis instead of waiting for that vacation week or that special occasion. She said, I love this statement: include pleasure and humor in your life. If you don't, you'll become a grump and you will be exhausted.
Mm. Guilty.
Exactly. She said, whatever you sow, you will reap. Whatever you plant, you will grow. So if you want to be a delightful person, it has to be planned and it has to be practiced.
Mm.
Isn't that good?
That is so good. I
And
feel like
then
these
go
things
ahead.
are kind of like when you're a young mom, you don't think, at least when I was a young mom, I didn't realize there was not ever going to be a time when everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really thought at some point in life everything's going to be perfect, but I think I always looked ahead to, well, when I can do it this way, or when we have a little more money, or when the boys are a little older, or there was just always a me looking forward. I feel like I was very reactionary instead of intentional. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid that this is going to be a very convicting episode for me.
Well, that's exactly how I feel though. When I look back at younger me, when people say, what advice would you give the new bride? I'm like, how would I word this in one little statement that's going to fit on those cute little cards they
Yeah.
give you? Because I always want to say somehow don't sweat the small stuff,
Mm-hmm.
be happy, be joyful. And I can look back at my younger self and think, oh, if only you made more of all of those moments,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of fretting about this and worrying about that, or, wondering if you're botching this and messing up
Right.
that. And, it, but I don't want my children to look back and remember that kind of a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to remember a mom who smiled.
Yeah. Yeah.
I already know that my resting face is not pleasant. But when my children think back to their time growing up in my home and they picture me just doing the dishes, doing the laundry, running errands, taking them to church, trying to get them all dressed and out the door on time for church, am I smiling through all of that?
I
What?
wasn't.
I know, that's what I'm saying. What do they actually, in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, here's what I hope, but how do they actually envision me?
Yeah.
And she even, under the same category of making delight a part of her life, my favorite thing that she said about that was during difficult circumstances, especially bring delight into the home. Choose to do something fun when things are hard. And, she talked about the fact that, and she's talked about this in some of her books too, that it's the exact opposite of what we feel like doing when we're in the middle of a painful or difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe you just want to hunker down and be by yourself. You definitely don't feel like doing something fun or playful or joyful. But she said that's the moment when you turn on the beautiful music or the upbeat, happy music, when you say, hey, let's go to the coffee shop and get a cup of coffee. Hey, let's go have a picnic in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going to bake a pie tonight. What kind do you want me to make? Right in the middle of all of that. And she talks about how, that it doesn't solve your problems. It doesn't make whatever that difficulty thing go away. Whatever pain you're experiencing is still there. You've still suffered the loss or whatever it is, that happened. But you're learning to handle those difficulties in a way that honors God and understands that you can still intentionally live life joyfully, that you can still see the blessings all around you that are always there, no matter what we're experiencing. Um, she said, circumstances change, but cultivate joy and look for joy and beauty in the midst of it. Then we'll all live better and well in the midst of difficulties of life. She talked about the fact that, again, that's something that doesn't happen naturally. We have to learn how to develop and learn how to practice it. She said, it's this prayer: God, I don't know what you're doing in this situation, but I'm going to trust you. And meanwhile, I'm going to go make a batch of brownies.
That was not me.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. So she said, your home needs to be filled with grace and memories of fun because your children are going to go out into a dark world. God trusts us with these difficult times. How are we going to pass on hope? How are we going to pass on peace? How are we going to pass on faith during these times? And then she shared that one of her grown sons came up to her, after he had left home and started his own family. And he said that he wanted to talk to her about what impacted them the most as children growing up in their home. And he said, you might be surprised to learn it wasn't the fun things, it wasn't the celebrations. He said it was watching how she walked through hard times. He
Mm.
said, so we now have a pattern for how to walk through hard times. You always chose to trust and chose to love, and that shaped our lives more than you knew because we were watching you to see how you handled life.
Ugh.
Isn't that good?
It is. It is convicting. It seems like the older I get, the more I look back on parenting and wonder what in the world was I thinking. I feel like especially with our oldest, you feel like you've got to make sure you do everything right in parenting. And and if they mess up, it's a reflection on you. And I don't know that I would have put that into words, but it was probably how I felt. And I didn't I I have a lot of regrets. I think that they all turned out, they're wonderful men. And so there must have been a lot of grace from God
By
that,
the grace of God, exactly.
yes. But when I look back on that, I think about some of the mindsets that I had, like love not the world or the things in the world. And so I had this idea that we weren't really supposed to enjoy life. Everything was supposed to be very spiritually focused, and it is. But there's also passages, if you would love life and see good days.
Mhm.
So there's God, he created color and flavor and all of these things. And I think that I sort of overlooked that. And like I said, I was reactionary instead of intentional. And that saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Exactly.
So but I think we also send mixed signals too, because we talk to young women about being intentional with their parenting, but yet at the same time, we're now, yes, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't try to make your child perfect. It's just, I guess every mother everywhere throughout all time has had those kind of feelings like, what am I doing? How do I do this? I'm upset with life. I'm upset with my husband. I'm upset with work, whatever. And then that pours into your children and your home life. And so, man, I needed this 30 years ago.
Well, but you know what? We need it now too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we may be empty nesters, but both of us have family all around us who are still watching. And both of us are entering new things, facing new challenges, have new fears, have the what ifs, have things happen that mess up our perfect little plans. We still need to be convicted by this. And I have a husband that I'm creating a home for, and my attitude strongly affects him.
Mm.
And so am I choosing to be a delightful woman in the midst of it all, in the midst of my aggravations? And I probably don't know how to explain this, but it was almost like when something happened or something bad happened, it was almost like you shouldn't do something fun or joyful because it would be a dishonor to whatever's
Yeah.
happening. Like you would feel
Mm-hmm.
guilty for laughing at something funny
Mm-hmm.
or, whatever it is. And I've always been amazed by Neil and frankly, almost irritated by the fact that we could be in the middle of something that either had me on my knees in prayer with worry, that type of situation, or something we had a strong disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's the end of the world, and then I hear him outside whistling,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
You're supposed to
he,
be devastated like
he
me.
he's so untouched by my grief, and or at night I'm laying awake wrestling with the thing, and he's,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how can you sleep?
Uh-huh.
Because so which of us chose the healthier, more God honoring route in all of those situations? And like I said, this is a current need for me. I may not have
Yeah.
small children that I'm responsible for in my home, but I still have a husband and I still have grown children and I still have grandchildren and I still have friends and family and everybody else who's watching
Yeah.
how I handle the circumstances of life.
I still feel like I need to call all my sons and apologize to them.
That's right. I love you and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I ruined you, except you're not
Don't
really ruined.
don't be like me
Yeah.
with your kids.
Oh boy. I told
Uh,
John he wanted to know what this topic was today, and I told him bringing joy into the home. He said, "Bring joy into the home. Meet your husband at the door with iced tea and a smile and fresh cookies baking in the oven." And he said a few other things, but okay.
I mean,
I should do that today.
I was going to say he's joking and not joking, right?
Right.
How simple is it to make it is funny how every now and then, if I put a little extra effort into what I'm cooking, or it's something that's Neil's favorite, what's for dinner? And I tell him, he's like, what? And he's
Hmm.
almost giddy,
Yeah.
almost giddy. And in my mind, I'm going, wow, it doesn't take much to please you.
Mm-mm.
But really, it doesn't take much to please them.
Yeah.
And I
That's it.
imagine it's the same. Well, I know it's the same with our children, little, small, thoughtful, fun, happy
Hmm.
gestures. I made your favorite cake tonight. It's not even your birthday.
Yeah. Just for
I just
fun.
made your favorite cake and it's frosted and everything.
Hmm.
Yeah. All
Okay, we're gonna
right.
have to finish this before he gets home so I can brew up some tea real quick.
Okay. All right. So the first one is, what did I say? Something about delight. I moved away from that page. The first
Make
one
things
was,
delightful.
yes, make delight a part of your life, your
Yeah.
everyday life. Number two, don't compare yourself to other people.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So you were
Comparison's
talking,
a thief of joy.
it is. We were talking about when our children were small, and the pressures that we put on ourselves. Can you imagine what that's like now?
Ugh, yeah. No, I
I
would not want
mean,
to do social media as a young mom.
I know. At least we were limited in what we were exposed to,
Hmm.
maybe some friends that we knew and some magazines.
Yeah.
But can you imagine
Mm-mm.
what is coming into the minds of wives and moms today? And it just seems like it's this huge, this is how your home is supposed to look. This is how your marriage is supposed to look. This is what you need to do with your kids. And here is a list of 50 things you better do at Christmas or they're going to have a stinky Christmas.
Hmm.
The pressure.
Yeah. And look good doing it.
Yes, yes. So don't compare yourself to other people. Um, so here's Sally Clarkson said, we have all these pictures of what our life is supposed to look like. And all of these lists of things that we're supposed to do to check off to give our kids the right childhood. But pay attention to your own family, your own heart, and your own life. There's no way you can check off all those things that everyone else seems to have. And I don't think God requires that of us. He wants us to cultivate peace, cultivate faith, live by grace with ourselves and our children, and to enjoy the small times.
Mm,
Don't
love it.
compare yourself to other people. Yeah. And it was either another episode or a book or something, but she was talking about all the different ways that they just flouted the system altogether. Like things that you would consider the norm for a child rearing. She was like, yeah, that didn't really work for us. We did this instead. And when I'm hearing it, I'm going, what? Was that an option? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm thinking it takes confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when
it
you're
does.
self-doubting, how you do things, it's hard to flout the
Mhm.
norm.
Yeah, especially when it becomes the norm because it seems like that's what everybody else is doing via
Hmm.
all these social media things pouring it, streaming into our lives on the
But the
regular
social
basis.
media is the highlight reel for most people. I mean, there are
Mm-hmm.
some who show the not so great, and try to be real with things. But for the most part, you just are seeing the edited version of someone's life with all of the bad parts cut out. And we all know that,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't help but admire and see what they put out there and think, oh, if only I'd done that, or how can I do that next time?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, don't compare. Comparison really is a thief of joy.
Well, and we just need to remember that it's really hard to simplify and focus on what really matters when we're filling our minds with all this other created content. You may know intellectually, I know that's their highlight reels. I'm just doing this for fun, but you're still pouring that into your mind. And sometimes it gets a little blurry there, a little gray with, all of a sudden now I think I need this or I want this or, oh, I wish our home looked like that. I wish our family table looked, I wish my meals looked like that. I wish my marriage,
Hmm.
we just really need to keep an eye on it and make sure it's not affecting our hearts. That the choices that we make for my own marriage, my children, and how they spend their time and where we're going to focus our money and our energy is going to be the God honoring thing that we've chosen for our family,
Hmm.
not what everybody else thinks that we're supposed to be doing with all of our time and all of our money and all of our resources, which can be exhausting
Hmm.
and stressful. and hard to keep up with, hard to maintain.
What is it that's so such a siren song about fame and having a following? There's a family they're just called the Bucket List family, and I don't remember how I started following them on Instagram or something. And um, they're they look like a sweet family. It's a mom and a dad and three kids, but they travel everywhere. And I think that's probably I was curious about, because traveling with three small at the time when I first started noticing them, they had like a 18-month-old and a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, something like that. And they're going everywhere and making it look easy. But then I started thinking, all of this filming that they're doing of them going places, that takes time to set up the camera and to film things. Oh, no, that wasn't quite right. Do it again. Did their family enjoy being filmed, and having to do it again if it wasn't just right? And anyway, I just think we get sucked into that feeling like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to be followed by 1.3 million people? And yet we end up just comparing ourselves with people who are they maybe have a paid team who's editing their videos, or they're spending all of their time setting up the camera and recording things, and their family hates it. So
Yeah,
just
so
wonder
true.
about that.
Well, I know we've shared this quote on here before, and I didn't jot it down, so I can't even remember who said it, but it was something along the lines of comparison either causes you to feel less than, like not as good as, or arrogant because you're better than somebody else. And neither one of those honors God.
Yeah.
And as you said, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's the whole premise of this episode. So, in some ways, comparison can be good. Paul even said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. So, if we're comparing ourselves to Christ and where our soul is, where our spiritual walk is, that's good. That's what we're aiming for and striving for.
And that will bring joy.
It will bring joy. It'll bring about the betterment of our lives and our hearts. But everything else, it's okay to be happy for other people. It's okay to think other people are doing cool things, and that's fun, and I'm interested. We just need to be careful about then holding our situation up to it and then feeling dissatisfied with it for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So don't compare yourself to other people. Number 3, bring others into your home or life. So again, if you have children, when they grow up and leave home, what are going to be their memories of your family table when they look back? And I know we've talked about this before, but I remember growing up and my parents always had people over. There were always people around the table for, youth events or devotionals or just friends that they would have over to play cards, or, the visiting preacher or whatever it was. That's a huge part of my memories of growing up. But I'm not really talking about hospitality here so much as it is, joy shared is joy multiplied. And so look for ways to bring others into that joy is only going to enrich the joy of everyone in the home who's experiencing it with you. So we're talking about cultivating delight, creating joy. So we're inviting others to come into that and share it with us. Lisa Bass, in that particular episode with Sally Clarkson, shared this idea that her girls had. She has multiple daughters, and they were wanting to start a little sewing club, but they were scared to because they said, nobody's really probably going to be interested. They won't really want to come, or nobody has time. Everybody's so busy, nobody's even going to have time to want to come over. But they decided they would send out the invitations anyway. And lo and behold, their friends did come. They had several girls that started coming, and they started doing it on a regular basis, and they started meeting. And so I was thinking, if you feel a void in this area, women especially like to feel like we're a part of something. We like to feel like we belong to something, and especially love other get-togethers that involve women. I guess I'm kind of generalizing there, but I would say a lot of us, enjoy that. And, you might think, well, our congregation doesn't really have anything like that. I don't really know anybody that does anything like that. Well, then you have the opportunity to fill that void.
Mhm.
And you start it. You start doing something. You invite people to your home for a simple pizza and game night or singing or, whatever it is. Um, think of something that you enjoy and then invite others to share it with you. So it's not like it even has to be something that's going to, not be very fun for you or cause a lot of effort, but just something that you enjoy doing anyway. And then ask somebody to come along with you when you do it or go there or whatever it might be. You might be surprised how many people make the time to fit into their lives. I always feel like I do feel that way. Everybody's so busy. And I don't want to give somebody yet one more thing that they have to fit into their schedule.
Mhm.
But if people are interested, they will. If they
Mhm.
want to, they will. And if they find out it's something that's going to bring joy to their lives, they will make the time for it. Um, One of the things that was mentioned by either Lisa Bass or Sally Clarkson, I can't remember, but they said a lot of times it's what people have been waiting for or what people have needed, and they didn't even know it themselves.
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So, and how many times have you been to something like that? You agreed to go participate in something and then you come away saying, I didn't even know I needed that.
Yeah.
Like the round table that we just
Mhm.
did. I walked away from that going, wow, I didn't even know I needed that.
Mhm.
Um, Sally Clarkson was saying that there are things that hold us back from bringing others into our lives and sharing that joy. And one of the big ones is a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to that comparison thing, and we can't do it as good as they did, or we don't have it as nice as they do. And so a lack of confidence, or maybe people won't have fun, I'll be judged, whatever it is.
There are
But
some people, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
There are some people that have a knack for expressing or bringing people into their circle because you feel like they're saying, you bring me joy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be around you because you bring me joy. I mean, they might not say it just like that, but then there's other people that they feel like they bring you joy. And there's just something more appealing to me about the person that pulls me in because I feel like they want me. They feel like that I feel like I bring them joy. I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's surprising to me, like, oh, they want me to come.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that I just think, um, I want to be like that. I want to draw other people because they see that I'm drawn to them because they bring me joy. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to grace others with the joy that I can bring them. I hope that makes sense because I know several people like that they just draw you in because you feel like they love you and they want to be around you because they appreciate who you are and what you do for them and their outlook on life and I appreciate that.
Well, and that must be because they're not self-absorbed
Hmm.
and they're not worrying so much about how they're coming across. They just care more about other people, and that comes across.
Yeah.
And they put the emphasis on other people. And we know that. We've had these conversations about hospitality. It's not about impressing people, it's about making people feel loved and welcome and
Mhm.
seen. And it's the same with, bringing people into your joy that you're trying to cultivate. How many different people can we share this with? We already know, because the Bible teaches it over and over again, that serving others is what brings true and lasting joy.
Mhm.
And are we really sharing that enough with our children?
Mm.
Opportunities to serve.
No.
I would say we spend a lot of time making sure our children have everything they need and get what they want,
Hmm.
seems like. And what they really need is true and lasting joy that comes from serving others. And we just need to make sure there's a balance there. I thought about several years ago, I went to California and I was going to be staying with Jason and Jill Jackson
Hmm.
to do a lady stay out there. And It was so funny because I was going to be staying in their home and they had three small girls at the time. And I started hearing all the stories leading up to my arrival. And then after I got there, of how Jill was getting her house ready for me to come stay there. We really didn't know each other all that well at the time. We had been emailing, a little bit back and forth, getting her house ready. She put me in the master bedroom. So getting the master bedroom ready, but she had her girls helping her with all of this and, talking about what they were going to cook. They cooked a really beautiful special meal and they put together a welcome basket in the room for me, that had all these fun, beautiful little things in it. So with the cleaning and giving up her master bedroom and the basket and the special meal, one of her girls said, "Is the queen coming to visit?" And they were all just so excited. And when I showed up, they were calling me Queen Kathy. And that, I never forgot that because, of course, I felt special because of all of her thoughtful touches. But imagine what that did for her girls. Imagine the joy that she ended up giving them because she brought them in on this opportunity to serve somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously saw her enjoyment of it, her, the effort and passion that she put into it because they were like, "Oh, is the queen coming?" And they'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about is when we do things for others and look for ways to bring them into this joy that we're trying to cultivate, our children and everybody else in the home benefits from that too, because everybody experiences lasting joy from serving. And that's going to ultimately make our homes joy-filled homes.
Mm-hmm. Serving. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I have to call you Your Highness?
Please.
Okay.
Actually, that didn't last very long. I was hoping that one would stick, but I think by the end of the weekend it was gone. Yeah. So I think I disappointed them in my presence.
It was nice while it lasted, though.
It didn't look very cleanly. The last one, I just thought we would talk about some easy and small joy providers. And this might be some of the things that you were kind of thinking about when you were planning for this episode. So find one small way to make each day special. Now, special for you and your family, not for Instagram.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
Big difference here. This is not about how this is going to look when you share it. If you take a picture, this is find one small thing each day to do something special to make the people in your home feel special. And I'm not talking about exhausting yourself with coming up with something. You know what your family
Mm-hmm.
appreciates. You know what means a lot to your husband and your children. One of I guess it was Emily. Yeah, that makes sense. Or maybe one of my daughters-in-law recently heard Carl either preach or teach Bible class. Carl is our youngest and he's 26 years old. And they were saying that he mentioned the fact that Tuesday nights when he was growing up was the longest night because he couldn't wait for Wednesday morning because that was Waffle Wednesday. Now,
that is so Carl.
Yeah. So Carl is, 26 years old now, and I'm just now finding this out.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. It's not like he came to the table going, "Oh, it's Waffle Wednesday, and I'm so excited for waffles." I had no idea. I really just did that because it made it easier for me to think about what to fix for breakfast. But for him, that was fun. And I didn't even know it. And so I'm trying to say, not really, I promise I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm trying to say that, especially for children, it's the little things that make it feel like it's a special day. Let's go take a walk to look for something beautiful in nature. Let's have a picnic, as we said. How about story time in your home? I'm obviously speaking about families with children in the home right now. It doesn't happen to just happen. It doesn't have to just happen at the library. I loved story time at the library because somebody else was reading the book and they always had some little fun activity to go with it, but you could do that at home too. Find out whatever hobbies or interests members of your family are drawn to and then gear the something special around that. That just makes it really simple and easy. Another one is to read the word out loud. At some point during the day, it could be at breakfast. It could be, at night before you go to bed. But God's word is always powerful and always going to be comforting and peace giving to anybody's heart. So that will bring joy immediately into your home, God's joy. Look for ways to engage the senses. I am not an idea person. You're good at this. This is a natural thing for you. But if you're like me and you're not good at coming up with things, you can start going through the senses. So hearing could be to bring joy into the home, play a cappella music, the a cappella hymns. We talked about that in our last episode, or any other kind of music that the family enjoys. Taste, that one's easy.
Yeah, that's the easiest one.
Yes, that is by far the easiest one. And there's nothing wrong with that. Cook somebody's favorite for, not a special occasion. It's just because. Smell, fresh air, clean floors, laundry, baked anything. There's all kinds of ways. Touching, intentional hugs, kisses on the tops of the head. I just learned from that episode that kissing the top of your child's head makes them smarter. Did you know that? That has been that has been physiologically proven. Kissing the top of their head makes them smarter. So there you go.
Physiologically prove that?
I don't know, but somebody said it on a podcast, so it must be true.
Must be true.
Sight. What would make you and your family smile? Is it coming home and finding that you've set the table? We've gotten into the habit of just serving things at the stove. Every once in a blue moon, I'll set the table and I'll have everything family style on the table. And it just makes a difference. I mean, they're like, hey, wow. It's a big deal.
Whose birthday is it?
I know, it's a big deal. Is it fresh flowers? Is it that frosted cake under the glass dome on the counter? Is it that fact that you've lit candles? Just whatever it is that is going to make somebody in your family smile, and you know that about them.
Simple things.
This one kind of reminds me of what John said to you. Greet everyone with something positive when you see them. That is definitely going to bring joy into your home. Make a big deal out of small gestures, even if it's not what you really want.
Okay.
And so the whole idea is God has given us this precious life. We just want to make the most of it.
I was just thinking while you're talking about paying attention is one of those things that I think is going to bring joy, because all of those things that you're mentioning, the smell, the sight, the because you live around them, what they like. And just knowing that someone knows you, to me, brings me joy. When someone does something for me because they know I like it, I just feel seen and known. And who doesn't love that? But paying attention to our kids, and one of them might enjoy a late night quiet time stay up late and we'll play cards together. The other one might be grumpy at night. Know which one it is. Just paying attention to likes and dislikes and temperaments. And I think you can modify behavior too for someone who is grumpy. Don't do something that is going to make that worse. Just don't do things that you sense because you've paid attention to them. So
like some of your kids will be a morning person, and some won't, and we know which ones are which. And there is that verse in the Bible that says greeting your neighbor loudly in the morning, it's not nice.
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing, but
that's from the Message, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, why would you aggravate something that is natural, just comes naturally to them? I think you can, like I said, modify behavior by just going in and patting them and saying it's time to wake up, rather than singing at the top of your lungs. But yeah.
I like that. Just pay attention. Well, the podcast that I've been referencing is on the Simple Farmhouse Life. It's Lisa Bass's podcast, The Simple Farmhouse. What did I say?
Simple Farmhouse Life.
Farmhouse Life. I think. And it's her interview of her most recent interview of Sally Clarkson has a lot of this good information and more. But I also wanted to share some that Elizabeth Elliot has, also another favorite of mine. I just listened to one that she did called Peace in the Home. These are all on hers are all on YouTube. And of course, these are from previously recorded
Mm-hmm.
things that she spoke. And they've kind of, so the one I just listened to on Peace in the Home, there is a part in there where you can tell they've kind of, it's like spliced together
Mm-hmm.
different talks that she did through the
Mm-hmm.
years because some of it's not all that smooth. But the Peace in the Home one was excellent. I highly recommend it, especially for parents. She also has one on gratitude, one on acceptance, finding rest, how to simplify your life, rekindling a dying marriage, loneliness, forgiveness, the value of family prayers. She's got one called Moping or Acceptance. And
Whoops.
she's got one called Joy is an Active Quest. All of these are really, really good, really good practical talks that
She's just
she's
got so
done.
much common sense
Yes, she does.
and she communicates it very well.
Yeah, she does. I was thinking though, when I was looking back over all these things that we've talked about, it's funny how none of it really has to do anything with money or materialism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet it seems like that's what you know, we're going after, we think we have to have, we think we need to make us happy, but things that really bring joy into your home are not
Mm-hmm.
reliant on those kinds of things.
Exactly. I wrote down time and attention, not things. That was one of the things that I wrote down as far as things that'll bring joy. The only
Yes.
other thing that I had written down that I'll bring up, and I know we need to wrap it up, is just the quote from First Peter 3:10 through 12 that is a Psalm 34 quote. Who is the man who desires life and loves length of days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. And I thought that's just something, obviously that works in all of life, but in our home, don't speak evil. Don't speak bad things. Tell the truth. Always choose the good and then seek and run after peace. And I think if all the family members did that, but I mean, parents have to model it first. But if we do those things, there's going to be joy in the home.
You know, I don't want, well, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say this.
Go for it.
um, in times past, anytime I put a quote that has to do with joy or happiness, I typically end up hearing from somebody that will say, never does anywhere in the Bible does it say that God wants us to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't agree with that. I
Right.
completely disagree with that. I think there's a difference between seeking self pleasure, making sure I'm always comfortable and I'm serving self and my needs are what met first. And of course, God doesn't want us to do that. But there are tons of passages in the Bible that talk about joy. And I even did a Bible marking topic on it one time that it's a Christian trait.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of our greatest apologetics, that to show others the blessings of being in Christ. Does it mean that our life is problem free? No. But we recognize how blessed we are. We recognize that we have heaven to look forward to. We recognize that we have Christian family that we love, we giving and receiving that kind of love. People should be able to see that in us. And
Mm-hmm.
certainly the people in our own homes should see that in us first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I know looking back on my own life, I just got caught up in things that were happening
Mm-hmm.
to
Me too.
me or around me and didn't think more about the other people in my home instead of my own feelings. So I know it wasn't like that every time, but yeah, this stepped on my toes. I wasn't expecting it to. Thanks.
You're welcome. That's what friends are for. Okay. Do you have something good for us?
I do. You're
What
not
you
going to
got?
like it.
Oh,
Remember how I said chocolate covered gummy bears?
oh yeah.
Now, I know it's not new, but now there are chocolate covered cinnamon bears.
Well, it's adorable. It looks good.
It is
Yeah.
good.
You gonna chew that right now?
I'm just going to hold it in my mouth while you talk. They're really good. They're hard to find, but I found these at Central Market yesterday, along with, the other day, along with all those other eclectic things that I found. Cinnamon, chocolate covered cinnamon gummy bears.
Well, I'm doing food also. You've
Okay.
done chocolate. I'm gonna do cheese.
Okay. I like cheese.
Yes. So my new favorite cheese is by where did I write it down? Oh, Kerrygold. You know the butter people,
Yeah.
the Irish butter people. They do cheese also.
Mhm.
And Sam's carries it. There's one called Dubliner.
Yes, I've
Have
had
you
it.
tried that one?
Mhm.
Oh, it is so good. Everything about it is so good. It is the perfect balance of sharp but not too sharp. It's
Mhm.
aged for a long time, but the texture is just right for like
Mhm.
shaving and snacking
Mhm.
on. And it's slightly sweet. I mean, I've tried cheeses that are supposed to be sweet, like they'll have apricot and white chocolate and things like that in them. And I'm
Mm-mm.
not really
Mm-mm. I
that
like
big
that.
on it.
Mm-mm.
This hint of sweetness is more of a, you're not really, it's not like sweet sweet. It's just a very light I don't know how to describe it. Like a
It's
very
a little
light
nutty.
natural. It's a little nutty. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But it's Kerrygold's Dubliner cheese.
Yeah.
And
It's like a
it's
Parmesan texture, right?
yes, but it's
But
a
it's,
cheddar.
yeah. So it tastes, it's not so strong like a Parmesan. You
Mm-hmm.
could just slice it and eat it, which
Yes.
you might not do so much with Parmesan,
Yeah.
but it's
And not
delicious.
quite as hard as a
Hmm.
Parmesan,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so good.
What do you put? Do you put it on something or in a salad or?
I well, we bought some figs.
Mhm.
No, we didn't. Not figs, dates.
Okay.
Those great big dates. And we had a big tray on the table, and I just shaved some of that cheese and I put out the dates and I put out some crackers and things like that. But I have a baggie in my refrigerator of some of that just kind of shaved off, and I'll just go in there and grab a couple of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say it's not a great melting cheese. I mean, I'll still not shy away from mixing it up in some pasta.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that you'd want to like shred it on top of pizza or anything like
Yeah.
that. But as far as flavor goes and texture, and it's so good.
It's just a straight up eaten cheese.
Yes, just have a few slices with a fresh apple, and that's a perfect snack right there.
Yeah.
All
I think
righty.
that's the first time I tried it too, is that they got me with a sample and then I bought some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. And it's
Yeah.
not very expensive. I mean, it's not expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you could get a
Okay.
great big one at Sam's or Costco.
Well, it has been a joyful hour with you. Thank you for thank you for a good conversation. I know your home is joyful.
Well, I think maybe part of the time, but my toes are smashed. So
I'm sure they are because you're looking back. You know what was in your mind, but that doesn't mean everybody else does. And you're good at making people feel special. So I know your children did too.
well, I hope so. I pray so. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if thank you everybody who's listened all this time to us. If you have ideas and practical tips on how to bring joy into the home, we would dearly love to hear them. Please visit us at Looking Up on Facebook and share those ideas with us. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you'd be willing to like it, share, subscribe, however you're listening or watching. As we've always said, we have zero intention of monetizing. That is not our objective, but we do want the algorithm to see us and make sure that more women see us. So you can be a big help for that, and we would appreciate it. But Carla, until next time,
Keep looking up.
all right, love you, friends.
Love you too. See you later.